Why I regret moving into a nursing home. 6 hard truths every elder must know. I remember the day I moved into the nursing home like it was yesterday. I packed up decades of memories into a few boxes, hugged my family goodbye, and stepped into what I thought would be a comfortable retirement. But within weeks, regret set in. The loss of independence, the quiet loneliness, the hidden realities no one warned me about, it hit harder than I expected. And I wasn't alone. Countless others felt the same. Today, I'm revealing 6 hard truths I wish I had known before making that decision. Truths that could change your future. Before I share these truths, I want you to be part of this journey. If you care about aging with dignity, health and freedom, hit subscribe. Because what you don't know can change your life. Maybe you're considering a nursing home, or your family insists it's the best choice. Safer, simpler, the right thing to do. That's exactly what I thought. The promise of security, less stress and round-the-clock care sounded reassuring. I was told it would ease my burdens, give me more freedom. But what no one prepared me for was what I'd lose in the process. At first it felt like just another chapter of life. But little by little I noticed the changes, the quiet isolation, the loss of control over my own routines, the way my world shrank to the walls around me. I wasn't just settling into a new home, I was giving up parts of myself I never thought I'd have to. And I'm not alone. So many others have told me the same thing. I thought I was making the right choice, but no one told me it would feel like this. That's why I'm sharing these 6 hard truths. Not to scare you, but to prepare you. Because if I had known them earlier, I would have made a very different choice. Independence fades faster than you expect. When I first moved in, I thought I was gaining peace of mind. No more worrying about home maintenance, cooking, or managing daily responsibilities. I pictured myself finally relaxing, reading more, making new friends. But what I didn't realize was how quickly my sense of control would slip away. At first, it was small things. Meals were served at set times, whether I was hungry or not. My schedule was no longer my own. A knock on the door meant it was time for medication, not because I had asked for it, but because it was part of the routine. I could still move around, but the structured environment slowly made me feel less in charge of my own life. Then bigger changes came. Staff took over tasks I was still capable of doing myself, all in the name of helping. Decisions about my care, my daily activities, even the clothes I wore, everything became part of a system designed for efficiency, not individuality. And before I knew it, I had stopped making choices altogether. I watched others go through the same transformation. People who once lived full, independent lives started following the schedule instead of setting their own. They moved less, spoke less, engaged less, not because they wanted to, but because the system made it easy to stop trying. And once you stop fighting for your independence, it disappears faster than you'd ever expect. That's the real danger. It's not that nursing homes take away your freedom overnight. It's that the structure slowly conditions you to let go of it. You don't realize it's happening until one day. You wake up and wonder when you stopped living life on your terms. So, what's the lesson? If you ever move into a facility, you have to fight to stay independent. Stick to your own routines as much as possible. Insist on making your own choices. What to eat, when to go outside, how to spend your time. Keep doing things for yourself, even if help is available, because if you don't actively hold on to your independence, the system will do it for you. Loneliness can be worse than living alone. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was gaining a built-in community. People my age, shared experiences, easy friendships. I pictured conversations over morning coffee, group activities that felt natural, a sense of belonging. But what no one tells you is that just because you live near people doesn't mean you feel connected to them. At first, the common areas seemed full of life, but I quickly noticed something unsettling. Many residents kept to themselves. Some had trouble hearing, others were dealing with their own struggles, and some simply weren't interested in making new connections. I tried striking up conversations, but often they felt forced. People came and went, some were only there temporarily, others preferred to stay in their rooms, caught in their own routines. It didn't take long for me to realize that this wasn't the social life I had imagined. Then came the hardest part. My family visited less. Not because they stopped caring, but because they assumed I was taken care of. In their minds, I was surrounded by people, looked after, safe. But what they didn't see was the quiet moments between scheduled activities, the long afternoons spent waiting for a familiar face, the feeling of being part of a crowd, yet deeply alone. That's the thing about loneliness. It isn't just about being by yourself. It's about feeling invisible, like your presence no longer matters. Back when I lived alone, I had neighbors to wave to, a routine that took me out into the world, a reason to reach out to others. But inside those walls, it was different. The structured environment made it easy to disappear into the background. So, what's the lesson? If you're considering a nursing home, don't assume companionship comes automatically. You have to actively seek it out. Find people who share your interests. Join activities that truly engage you, not just ones that fill time. And most importantly, stay connected to the people who know and love you. Because the biggest mistake I made was thinking that being surrounded by people meant I wouldn't feel alone. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was gaining support, not surrendering my freedom. I assumed I'd still decide how I spent my days, when to wake up, what to eat, when to go outside, just with a little extra help when needed, but what I didn't realize was that in a place designed for efficiency, personal choice often comes second. It started with small things. Breakfast was served at a set time, and if I wasn't hungry then, too bad. The menu was predetermined, and while accommodations were possible, it was easier to just accept what was given. Activities were scheduled, not based on my preferences, but on what worked for the facility. And suddenly, even my bedtime felt dictated, not by rules, but by the quiet nudge of routine. At first, I told myself it was fine, it was just structure, right? But then I noticed something. Days started blending together. I wasn't deciding how I spent my time anymore. I was simply following what was laid out for me. The little freedoms I had always taken for granted. Grabbing a snack when I wanted. Stepping outside just because choosing how to fill my afternoon was slipping away, and I hadn't even realized it. And the hardest part? The longer you go without making choices, the easier it is to stop wanting to. I saw it happen to others. People who once lived full, independent lives started accepting the routine because pushing back felt exhausting. They stopped questioning things, stopped asking for what they wanted, until one day they weren't living life on their terms at all. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about comfort and care, it was about agency. The ability to decide, to choose, to shape your own day. And once you let that go, it's incredibly hard to get it back. So what's the lesson? If you ever move into a facility, don't give up your voice. Advocate for yourself. Stick to your personal routines as much as possible. Speak up when something doesn't work for you. Because the little choices you make each day aren't small at all. They're what make life feel like your own. Healthcare doesn't always mean better care. When I moved into the nursing home, I felt a sense of relief knowing that medical care was always nearby. Nurses, aides, trained staff. I assumed this meant I'd receive better attention, faster responses, and the kind of care that would keep me healthier. But what I didn't realize was that in a place where dozens, sometimes hundreds of people need help, you become just one of many. At first, I brushed off the little things. A long wait for my medication, a rushed check-in from the nurse, a meal that didn't align with my dietary needs. But over time, I started to see the pattern. The staff wasn't neglectful, they were overworked. They had rounds to complete, protocols to follow, and limited time for each resident. And unless something was urgent, small concerns were often pushed aside. I remember one day when I wasn't feeling quite right, just a little off. I mentioned it, but it wasn't serious enough to warrant immediate attention. "Let's see how you feel tomorrow," they said, but I knew something wasn't right. I pushed for a doctor's checkup, and sure enough, I had an infection that could have gotten worse if I had waited. That's when it hit me. No one knows your body better than you do. And if you don't speak up, you can easily be overlooked. I saw this happen to others too, people who didn't want to be a bother, who assumed the staff would catch every issue, who trusted that because healthcare was always available, it meant they were always being watched over. But that's not how it works. In a system designed to manage many individual needs can get lost. So what's the lesson? If you ever move into a facility, you must become your own advocate. Pay attention to how you feel. Speak up if something isn't right. Ask questions, double-check your medications, make sure your dietary and mobility needs are being met. The staff is there to help, but you have to make sure your voice is heard. Because at the end of the day, no one will look out for your health as well as you can. The hidden costs that drain your savings. When I first looked into nursing homes, I thought the monthly fee covered everything: housing, meals, medical care, and daily assistance. It seemed like a predictable cost, a way to simplify finances in my later years. But what I didn't realize was how quickly those fixed costs could spiral into something much bigger. At first it was small things. A fee for laundry services, an extra charge for a better meal plan, a small cost for transportation to a doctor's appointment outside the facility. But then came the bigger expenses. Physical therapy sessions that weren't fully covered, assistance with daily tasks that required an upgraded level of care, small luxuries like a private room or personalized services that weren't part of the standard package. And each year, the base price quietly increased. I watched as residents, including myself, dipped deeper into their savings just to maintain the same level of comfort we assumed was included from the start. Some had planned carefully for retirement, only to realize their money wouldn't stretch as far as they thought. Others found themselves forced to make difficult choices, downgrade their level of care, rely more on family, or spend down their assets faster than expected. One friend of mine had been financially secure for years, but after just a few years in a nursing home, the mounting costs forced him to move to a less desirable facility. He never thought it would happen to him, but it did. The truth is, most people don't read the fine print. They assume that once they move in, the price stays predictable, but the reality is that care needs change, fees add up, and facilities are businesses. They adjust costs accordingly. So, what's the lesson? Before committing to a nursing home, ask the hard questions. What's included and what isn't? How often do prices increase? What happens if your care needs change? Read every detail of the contract and have a financial plan in place. Because once you're inside, the costs can add up faster than you ever expected, and by then your options may be limited. The emotional toll of feeling placed somewhere. When I moved into the nursing home, I told myself it was my decision. I had weighed the options, considered the pros and cons, and thought it was the best choice for my future. But once I settled in, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It wasn't the new surroundings or the adjustment to a different routine. It was something deeper. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had been placed somewhere. Not like I had simply moved. It was as if my life had been packed up and relocated, like a final chapter had begun without my full consent. I started noticing the small ways this feeling crept in. Conversations changed. When family and friends visited, they spoke to me differently. Not as someone making new choices, but as someone being cared for. The questions were no longer about my plans, my goals, or what I wanted to do next. Instead, they were about whether I was settling in okay, as if my story had already been written, and now I was just living out the last pages. And then there were the quiet moments. Sitting in a shared room, watching the world move on without me. The realization that, while life outside continued, I was now in a place where time seemed to stand still. The hardest part wasn't adjusting to the new environment, it was feeling like I had lost my place in life. I had spent decades making decisions, building a home, shaping my own days. But now decisions were made for me, my role in the world felt diminished, and I struggled with the idea that my independence wasn't just fading, it had been reassigned to a system that no longer saw me as the person I once was. So, what's the lesson? If you ever face this decision, remember that where you live shouldn't define your sense of purpose. You are not just a resident, you're still you. Stay engaged, keep setting goals. Demand to be seen as a person with a future, not just someone being looked after. Because the hardest part of aging isn't getting older, it's letting the world convince you that you no longer have a place in it. The turning point, what you can do instead. So, if I could go back, what would I do differently? I wouldn't rush into a decision just because it seemed like the safest or easiest option. I would ask more questions, explore every alternative, and fight harder to maintain my independence. Because once you hand over control of your daily life, it's incredibly difficult to take it back. First, I would look into modifying my home. Simple changes like grab bars, stair lifts, and better lighting can make aging in place much safer. I would explore in-home care services, hiring part-time help to assist with daily tasks rather than moving into a facility full-time. I would consider assisted living alternatives where I could still have a private space and more flexibility over my routine. But most importantly, I would prioritize staying active and engaged in my own life. Because the moment you stop making decisions for yourself, others will start making them for you. A nursing home may be the right choice for some, but it should never be the first or only option. Take time to research. Talk to people who have lived through it. Think about what truly matters to you, your freedom, your lifestyle, your sense of purpose. Because once you step into a system designed for efficiency, it's easy to lose sight of what makes life fulfilling. You have more choices than you think. Don't wait until it's too late to explore them. Aging isn't about where you live, it's about how you live. Too often we let fear and convenience dictate our choices, assuming that just because something is normal, it must be the right path. But the truth is, no one path fits everyone. If you're considering a nursing home, ask the hard questions. Think beyond just safety and convenience. Consider your happiness, your independence, and your sense of purpose. Don't let routine replace fulfillment. Don't assume that because it's the standard option, it's the best one for you. Because here's what I've learned. Your story isn't over. You still have choices. You still have control over what this next chapter looks like. And no matter where you live, you deserve to live fully. If this message resonated with you, subscribe and join this community because together we're rewriting the rules of aging on our terms.